Don't jump. That's exactly what I thought. Don't jump. Donald Trump's on the roof. And the first thing I thought it was Joe Biden going, don't jump. Although Joe Biden would say, jump. What's up? This is Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be sitting in front of this microphone at Mar-a-Lago. HQ. We're here in HQ, which is situated inside of Mar-a-Lago in illustrious downtown Jacksonville, Florida, the free state of Florida. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad that you're joining me. I don't know how you're joining me. Maybe you're watching on the brand new Spotify video feature, which a lot of people have been really excited about. I got a bunch of comments from people going, "Man, we love this Spotify video feature." And I said, "Great. I'm glad you do. I'm glad it works. That's all I'm thinking about it. I'm glad it works. If you're subscribed to the regular Spotify, or maybe you're listening on iTunes, wherever you happen to be, go ahead and make sure that you're following us. Make sure that you're subbed. The kids call it subbed. That's what I always call. I say subscribe, but everyone else is like, make sure. Let me center this up. Everyone else is like, make sure you sub. And I go, yeah. So you want to make sure you're subbed, and also set those notifications. I don't know if there's short-term slang for notification. Like make sure you're notifed. Is that like subbed, notified, and notifed? It's only one syllable different. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You know what to do. Hit the button, hit the bell. Make sure that whenever we publish new content, you're getting it to your device, whether it's your laptop, whether it's your cell phone, whether it's some of you are on the tablet, and we track all that stuff too. We want to make sure that you're subscribed so that you get all the information that you need, and so that you know what we're telling you, who's coming after you, and more importantly, the stuff that's getting done. Really exciting news, and coming out of I never thought I'd say this. I never thought I'd say this. Really exciting news coming out of the House of Representatives, or at least somewhat exciting news coming out of the House of Representatives regarding Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and the Russiagate probe and subpoenas and summonses and people being ordered to come and testify. We're going to testify you. We want you to testify, and then we're going to let you fry. I know they'd come to testify in front of Congress, which is amazing because Congress, I thought, was on vacation. In fact, I wrote to James Comer. He dropped this list of all of these people that he's calling in front of Congress just like an hour ago, maybe 2 hours ago. He dropped this list, and he goes, here's all the people that we're going to subpoena and we're going to bring into Congress. And if they don't show up, we're going to hopefully go after them, like Greg Abbott's going after those Democrats in Texas. But basically what's happening is it appears that we have some movement, some action toward what's happening with this Russiagate probe. It appears that Pam Bondi, the Department of Justice chief, the Attorney General, it appears that she's making some kind of movement toward, I don't know, indictments. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to get anywhere near. I'm not saying lock her up. I'm not saying they're, fit them for orange jumpsuits. I'm not saying any of that's going to happen. What I'm saying is it appears that there's some kind of movement, and maybe doing this in August is the right way to do it. Here's the thing. August, and in fact, if you're a member of my GAIN community, I did a whole thing on this yesterday in our Monday motivation segment, because every Monday I kick off the group with a motivational segment where I get everybody excited about Monday because it's my favorite day. And so what happened is we were talking about August, and August typically is the lamest month. Not the lamest, but it's like the least amount of stuff gets done. Congress is a great example. Congress leaves for 6 weeks. The Senate, they just left. They did a couple of things that they needed to do, and then they were like, all right, we're gonna piece out this joint till September. A lot of people are wrapping up their vacations or going on their final week-long vacations. The kids are going back to school, so they want to hit the beach one last time, or they travel to Europe or whatnot. It's the last month of summer, and a lot of people are just checked out. Labor Day marks the official end of summer, so they're like, all right, I'll get to you after Labor Day. Check with me after Labor Day. There's not a lot going on until after Labor Day. Well, the smart people, the savvy people, the aggressive people, the go-getters, the people who want to make stuff happen and not just sit around and wait for stuff to happen to them, those people, they utilize August in a way that nobody else does. And they go, okay, you're not working, which means you're not going to bother me. You're not going to do anything stupid. You're not going to call me. You may be on vacation, but I'm going to be here working. I'm going to be working on bettering myself, making more money. You may be worried about vacation, but I'm here working on accumulation. accumulation of assets and money and time and endeavors and experience and all that kind of thing. So August typically could be in the best month for you if you take advantage of it, because everyone else is leaving you alone. But as far as Congress and the workplace and everything, nothing really gets done. I believe that Donald Trump and the Department of Justice, I believe that they're taking this opportunity when Congress is away to get stuff done without them and without worry of them complaining or getting in the way. I feel like Donald Trump and the entire administration is working. You're going to see a lot more executive orders. In fact, there's a big one coming up later today. You're going to see a lot of action unilaterally by the White House. You're going to see a lot of action unilaterally by the Department of Justice. And I think they know that in August, Congress is gone. It's going to be very difficult for them to come into session and do anything. It's going to be very difficult for Democrats to be hauled off the beach. It's going to be very difficult for lawyers to get into courtrooms and try to file injunctions and stop the president. And so August, while typically the quietest or the lamest month, could be one of the most exciting here in this particular administration. And I have some facts to back that up, because we're not one of those make crap up as you go along shows. We're not. If we make any crap up, we do it well in advance of the program. But we're one of those, like, we got actual stuff to back up what we say, and we'll get to all that here in just a minute. But first, what the heck was President Trump doing on the roof?
President Trump is on the roof of the White House. He's taking questions, or he was just a few moments ago. Let's listen in, please.
Looking good, Peter.
Are you going to build up there?
Something beautiful.
What does that mean?
What do you? More ways to spend my money.
Can you give us another thing?
We'll show you. It's just another way to spend my money for the country.
Yeah. So basically, what it's not very. The audio he wasn't mic'd up, and I guess they weren't prepared for Donald Trump to make an impromptu visit to the roof of the White House. So they didn't have the appropriate microphones. They didn't have the appropriate shotgun mics to pick up the audio coming from the roof. But Donald Trump, just for whatever reason, appeared on the roof of the White House with, Secret Service. He wasn't he wasn't suicidal or anything. It's not like, because that's the first thing I thought too. First of all, I thought Donald Trump's on the roof. Joe Biden's going to yell out, "Don't jump," because that was his favorite joke. Then the second thing I heard was, oh my God, I hope Donald Trump told somebody he's not suicidal, because, he's going after Russiagate. He's going after the Clintons. He's going after Obama. And we know what happens when people cross the Clintons and cross Obama and try to take on the deep state. We know what happens to those people. They get suicided. We don't want Donald Trump accidentally tripping and falling off that roof. Anyway, that was my other concern. But apparently he was there and he was fine and he was sure-footed and there was nothing to worry about. He was scoping out the area, we believe, for the new ballroom that's going to be created at his expense.
Mr. President, what are you doing up there?
Come down and talk to us.
What are you building?
Look. Are you considering more renovations, sir?
He says, hello, Peter. He says, Peter Ducey's down there. So he's like, hello, Peter. You're looking good. Yeah, you're looking good, Peter.
Are you going to build up
Aye,
there?
sir.
So apparently what happens is President Donald Trump went on the roof and they asked him what he was doing up there. And he goes, I'm just looking around. And he said, the ballroom's going to be on the other side, which then makes you wonder, what's he going to build on this side? Because here's what we know about President Donald Trump. A, he's rich. B, he's got a big vision for the White House. C, he wants to leave his mark on the White House and on Washington, D.C. And D, he likes things to be symmetrical. So if he's going to build a big ballroom on one side of the White House, he's probably thinking, now we're going to need something on the other side of the White House too. I don't know. Maybe, he's like, all right, I've got $200 million going to the ballroom. Maybe I could drum up some more money and build something else here on a pickleball court, or who even knows what it is. But Donald Trump is a builder. He loves building. And I'd like to point out too that did you notice that first he raised the flags, and again, it wasn't one flag, it was two flags, one on either side because symmetry. Then he went to the Fed and he was looking at Jerome Powell, which, by the way, we have some information about that guy too. He was looking at Jerome Powell's massive construction project at the Fed Mahal. He was looking at the massively over budget construction project by like billions of dollars that seemed to be mismanaged, that seemed to be just egregious, that seemed to be taking way too long. He was talking with the construction workers. He was talking with the architects. He was talking with Jerome Powell. He was belittling him and he was calling him out in front of reporters. It was great. But after that, it seems like that's when he really was like, you know what? I want to go, let's go full force on this ballroom. I'm itching to build something. It's like being in that construction site. Being in the Fed Mahal construction site really lit a fire inside of him. He was like, I want to be back on a construction site. You know what? I'm just going to add on to my house. And oh yeah, my house happens to be the White House. So he's up on the roof. He's up on the roof walking around. And you know what? And God love him.
Mr. President, what are you doing up there?
Yeah. Taking a little walk. God love him. We had a president who was confined to the basement. Do you remember that? Basement Joe Biden. Joe Biden lived in a basement for an entire election cycle, and now we have a president who's up on the roof. This just shows you how far we've come. It's been a massive improvement from Joe Biden in the basement to Donald Trump on the roof, from Joe Biden in the basement doing absolutely nothing to Donald Trump on the roof, building new construction on the White House for the first time in over 70 years, creating things that are going to make the White House and the Washington, D.C. and America great again. It really is. Seeing Donald Trump on the roof just shows you how high we can go. I don't know the last time I saw a president on the roof. I don't even know if George W. went up there. Bill Clinton probably went on the roof, but he did it in secret. You know, he probably grabbed some interns and he was like, come on, let me show you the roof. We'll lay out under the stars. Like, you know, that kind of thing. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Now there is, speaking of the Clintons, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and a whole bunch of other no good nicks from the Clinton-Obama years / Biden. I forget, they all like, it was like Clinton and Obama and Biden. They're all the same crooks. A bunch of criminals that just kept rolling over to the next administration. These guys now, we hope, are in deep duty because James Comer announced on his X just today, August 5th at 9:52 a.m. Eastern time, he wrote, breaking. The House Oversight Committee is compelling the following individuals to appear for depositions through issued subpoenas, which means each and every person on this list, each and every one of these names has been issued a subpoena to appear for a deposition. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton on October the 9th. Former President Bill Clinton on October 14th. Now, this is interesting. They put Hillary Clinton before Bill Clinton. I'll tell you why they did that in just a minute. Former U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, October 2nd. Former FBI Director James Comey, October 7th. Former U.S. Attorney General William Barr, August 18th. Former U.S. Attorney General Alberto Gonzales, August 26th. Former U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, August 28th. Former FBI Director Robert Mueller, September 2nd. Former U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch, September 9th. And former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder, September 30th. Now, you'll notice that when you look at that list, the last person to appear in order is Bill Clinton. The last person to appear in order is Bill Clinton on October 14th. The second to last person to appear is Hillary Clinton on October 9th. And that's because they're looking to stack the deck. They want to get every single piece of information they can get, starting with Bill Barr on the 18th. Then they're going to roll through to Alberto Gonzales, Jeff Sessions. You know, notice they're getting all of like the Trump attorney generals out of the way first. They're going to find out what's going on with that. And then they're going to get into all of the Clinton-Obamaites. That's when they're going to get into Robert Mueller. They're going to get into Loretta Lynch. They're going to get into Eric Holder. They're going to get all this information, all the details they can, and then they're going to bring in Hillary Clinton and bam, they're going to smack her with everything. And they're going to say, they're going to ask her questions. And if she says something that differs from any one of those other people, If Hillary Clinton walks in and her story doesn't match up with Robert Mueller, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, if they don't match up with Merrick Garland, if she doesn't match up with any of that stuff, James Comey, if James Comey comes in and says one thing and Hillary Clinton contradicts him, boom, then it's game on. And then after that, you've got Bill Clinton, who, let's be honest, Bill Clinton, not the Bill Clinton of old. Bill Clinton is now just old. Bill Clinton is doddering. Bill Clinton is teetering. Bill Clinton says inappropriate things. That's nothing new. He's been saying inappropriate things his whole life. But he's one of those. Oh, remember, he couldn't even pronounce Kamala Harris's name. Walked right out on stage at the DNC and said, Kamala, got to vote for Kamala. And her little nieces even came out and said, here's how you pronounce Auntie's name. It's comma, like the apostrophe, and la, like law, comma, law. And here comes old Bill Clinton, Kamala. Man, one time I remember she sat on my lap. I got so excited. Kamala, got to vote for her. That's what they're going to have him come in last, and they're going to hit him with everything. And it's going to be hopefully too much for him to handle. And he's going to be tripped up a little bit. But anyway, now this is, of course, provided any of these people appear, and that's a long shot. Some of them will probably show up. Bill Barr, I imagine, will show up. Guy's got nothing else to do. Jeff Sessions, he'll probably show up. He doesn't want to be held in contempt for no reason. He's also not the target of this investigation, but the targets are there. Merrick Garland is a target. The Clintons are both targets. Loretta Lynch is definitely a target. Eric Holder is a target. It appears to me that all of these people are now starting to see that Donald Trump was serious and the Republicans were serious. And Attorney General Pam Bondi is serious. In fact, she's ordered a grand jury in, we believe, Florida to start hearing evidence into the Russiagate investigation. That was the big breaking news yesterday.
Well, Will, good to be with you. This is coming out of the Justice Department. Fox News can confirm that Attorney General Pam Bondi today signed an order directing an unnamed U.S. federal prosecutor to take evidence to a grand jury relating to an alleged conspiracy to tie then 2016 candidate Donald Trump to the country of Russia. Now, Fox News reviewed the one-page order just hours ago signed by the Attorney General. A source familiar with the probe confirms this as well, while a DOJ spokesperson declined to comment on this report of an investigation. Fox is told Attorney General Bondi is taking the referrals from Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, quote, very seriously. The spokesperson says that Bondi believes there is, quote, clear cause for deep concern, end quote, and a need for the next steps. Now, this move, Will, comes just a couple of weeks after the Director of National Intelligence, you see her right there, Tulsi Gabbard, sent a criminal referral to the Justice Department regarding what she says proves there was a conspiracy to undermine Trump's candidacy and later his first term in office. Now, to be clear today, there are no charges that have been filed, no indictments. This is incredibly early in the process. What we have here is taking evidence the Justice Department believes it has to a grand jury to secure an eventual indictment or indictments. We don't know exactly where the grand jury will meet. We don't know who will go before the grand jury, and that's by design, because grand juries determine if there's enough evidence to indict, and grand juries are secretive in the American legal system, so it's normal not to know all of the answers. Again, the DOJ declining on any comment regarding this investigation. But, Will, big news, this was signed by the Attorney General Pam Bondi today to take this evidence of an alleged conspiracy to a grand jury with the hope to get an indictment or multiple indictments. Will?
That is big news, David, and congratulations to you. Excellent reporting on being first.
Yeah, good job. Good job, David. Good reporting. Now, this is interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, Pam Bondi signing off this order to take this evidence to a grand jury in, we believe, the state of Florida, which, by the way, is the perfect choice for it. Number one, it signals that she's got evidence, that Tulsi Gabbard has given her evidence, and maybe John Ratcliffe has given her evidence, and maybe our good friends Dan Bongino and Kash Patel have given her evidence. There must be evidence somewhere, or you wouldn't be able to go to a grand jury with hopes of getting any kind of indictments. You don't go to a grand jury with no evidence and say, hey, please, can we have an indictment? Pretty please. We know you hate Clinton, and so do we. There needs to be some kind of evidence for those things to move forward. And it looks like Pam Bondi, hopefully, has it. Otherwise, she wouldn't have signed that order. Again, hopefully she has it. Otherwise, she wouldn't have signed the order. And again, she's not saying anything, which is also smart because you don't want to give the grand jury or the judge or any part of this process any kind of idea or inclination to throw it out. And improperly commenting on any of that stuff could be deemed as inappropriate and could affect the grand jury and this order by Pam Bondi to go to a judge to go in front of that grand jury. Now, that doesn't mean that Donald Trump's not going to talk about it because Donald Trump's the president. He's not part of the Department of Justice. So Donald Trump was on Squawk Box this morning and he was asked about the grand jury being called to hear about the Russiagate scandal. And he was like, yeah, let me tell you what I know.
The Justice Department now tapping a grand jury to look into the intelligence community's assessment of what was happening with Russia. Is that you have nothing to do with directing the Justice Department?
No, I have nothing to do. Pam is doing a great job. I have nothing to do with it. I will tell you this. They deserve it. I was happy to hear it. I actually read it just like you did. I have nothing to do with it. But what they did in the election, what they did in even the last election, but it was too big to rig. But what they did in the 2020 election is grotesque.
Yeah, totally gross. Yeah, no, Pam's doing a great job. I had nothing to do with that. But man, I'll tell you what, these people are guilty of sin. That's Donald Trump. They're grotesque. They rigged this election. They rigged that election. They're guilty. I hope that grand jury indicts them all and throws the book at them. And I can say that because I'm not part of the Department of Justice. That's all Pam. Pam Bondi's doing a great job. And she's doing it independently of me. Now, James Clapper was talking about, I guess this was Fox News was showing some old James Clapper clips about what he said. And it's really interesting because it's one of those things now where you see what they said back then is clearly not what we know now.
The Attorney General would say such a thing. He just has a feeling that there was spying against the campaign. We're losing sight here of what started all this, and that was the Russian meddling, the Russian interference in our election process. And the Russians pose a profound threat to this country.
So that's from no evidence to profound threat. That's quite a leap. And what about President Obama? A declassified document dated December 9th, 2016, reveals the intel community was working to produce a new assessment per Obama's request.
Yeah, so we know all of that. But listen to what Clapper said. He said back in 2019, there's no bigger threat than Russia. And we know now from these documents that Tulsi Gabbard has just declassified, we know now from these documents that Russia was not a threat at all. They didn't have the notion to spy on our elections. They didn't have the capability. They didn't have the tools. So how can somebody be a threat when they don't have the desire, the capability, or the tools to do what you say they're threatening to do? They can't. And that's one of the reasons why these people are being called up in front of Congress. And that's one of the reasons why this grand jury is opening up. I imagine there'll be more subpoenas too, because there's some names missing from that list for sure. Joe Scarborough, by the way, morning Joe Scarborough, man, he was furious. He was not at all happy. Somebody must have tinkled on his Wheaties this morning. Because maybe Mika's put him in the doghouse or something, because he was not at all thrilled with any of this information coming out from the Justice Department yesterday.
Jonathan Ramirez, this is extraordinarily stupid. It's extraordinarily stupid on so many counts. If you look at it.
By the way, I'd like to point out that if anyone's an expert on extraordinarily stupid things, it's Joe Scarborough. So when Joe Scarborough says something is extraordinarily stupid, yeah, I mean, I tend to believe, I'm like, well, you're the expert on extraordinarily stupid, dude. So I'll go with what you say.
Jonathan Ramirez, this is extraordinarily stupid. It's extraordinarily stupid on so many counts. If you look at the timeline doesn't add up. It's like when Donald Trump is saying that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton created the Epstein files. No. That all happened during Donald Trump's first term. You look at the timeline here about what happened and when it happened. Barack Obama had nothing to do with this by anybody's accounts. And especially by the Senate Republican Intelligence Committee run by Marco Rubio, who afterwards said that it was Donald Trump's 2016 campaign that created a, quote, grave counterintelligence threat to the United States of America.
By the way, have you noticed how he hasn't even asked a question yet? he brings this guy on. He tries to ask him a question, but he just goes off on some kind of tangent about, God, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know. I don't even remember. It's very tough to follow.
That was Marco Rubio, the current Secretary of State. That was every Republican on the Senate Intel Committee after pouring through all of the documents. That's what they found. And when poor John Durham was made to sacrifice his professional career to go around the world investigating the investigators, he found nothing and ended up making a fool of himself. I mean, we even found out that the two documents that supposedly, fed into the Clinton conspiracy, that she was the one pushing this, actually was Russian disinformation. So, again, they know in the Justice Department.
I mean, again, it's really interesting, but he's still reporting on the falsehoods. He's still reporting on the propaganda. What he's doing is he's using information given by people who we now know fabricated this entire story about Russian disinformation. He's perpetuating the loop. So what happened was, back in the day, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, he fabricated this whole story. He's like, all right, Hillary lost. We can't just chalk it up to the fact that nobody trusts her, and the American people were like, over my dead body, will she be my president? Over my dead body, will Hillary Clinton be in charge of this country? Well, while people are out there going, heck no, I would much rather have President Donald Trump than President Hillary Clinton. Well, that was all going on. Barack Obama scratched his head going, well, we got to come up with something. So we gotta get Donald Trump out of office. Why don't we say it's Russian disinformation? Right, we'll get right. So that was all fabricated. That was all a narrative that was created by Barack Obama's CIA and his intelligence agencies, and we know that because we have the documents, courtesy of Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. Thank you very much for that. And now you've got Morning Joe going out there going, no. All that talk about that's all Russian disinformation. So what Joe Scarborough is saying now is that when Tulsi Gabbard revealed this campaign of disinformation, not by the Russians, but by Barack Obama and his intelligence community, by Hillary Clinton, and by, then James Comey, the FBI director, and James Clapper and everyone else, when that happened, that wasn't Barack Obama. That was Russian disinformation making Tulsi Gabbard believe that it wasn't Russian disinformation, it was Obama. That's how smart these Russians are. These Russians are so good that they can not only perpetuate a massive disinformation campaign during an election, but they can also then cover it up and make it look like Barack Obama was the one running the disinformation campaign, when really it was the Russians creating a double secret campaign. I mean, come on, I know some Russians. They're not that smart. They're good at chess. I get it. There's some Kasparov. That guy was really good at chess. They're not. That's not at all what's happening. What's happening here is that now that everybody's out, and Joe Biden was the last peg to fall. Literally, he fell. He fell up the stairs. He fell off the stage. He fell on the stage. He fell everywhere. But Joe Biden was the last peg to fall. When this whole thing started, you had Bill Clinton in the White House with Hillary Clinton, and they were, of course, I mean, look, the only reason Hillary Clinton stayed with Bill was for political reasons, for professional reasons. She knew where his skeletons were buried, and he knew where hers were. And they had to stick together. They couldn't go anywhere. They had this motley band of criminals that they were running around with. And keep in mind, who else was in that White House? Think about this. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have perpetuated or been part of one of the largest frauds in American history. They've been accused now of treason against the United States of America and trying to attempt a coup against a sitting president. And they're all part of this whole operation, according to the Justice Department and according to Tulsi Gabbard and according to the House of Representatives. So if that's the case, think about who else is linked to the Clintons. George Snuffleupagus from ABC News, the guy that had to pay out millions of dollars to President Donald Trump because he accused him of a crime that he was never convicted of. George Stephanopoulos worked for the Clintons for years as their communications director, as a trusted and valuable ally and asset inside the White House. You're telling me that this guy is totally innocent and has no knowledge of what was going on? Then, after the Clintons You rolled into George W. Bush, and then after that, it was the Obamas. And guess who the Obamas brought back? Hillary Clinton, for one, and a lot of those other Clinton people, and Joe Biden. And Joe Biden, for years, we know, had been getting rich off of his position as senator. And when he became vice president, holy cow, the floodgates opened into Biden Incorporated. He was taking phone calls with Hunter's people. He was sending them over to Ukraine to get money from Burisma. He was using our tax dollars, $1 billion of our tax dollars, to bribe and to blackmail Ukraine into helping his son not get arrested. He was setting up shell companies all over the place. James was getting money and his wife was getting money. Everybody was getting money, and it was funneling into his Rehoboth Beach house and his massive palatial estate in Wilmington, Delaware, which is way too nice and way too lucrative for any senator making $170,000 a year to afford, even less back when he was a senator, even though they haven't had an increase since 2009. And the crimes that must have been committed during the Obama administration included Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and probably Nancy Pelosi and Susan Rice and Loretta Lynch and all these other folks. And so now 2016 rolls around and Donald Trump beats Hillary Clinton. And the first thing they think to themselves isn't, we lost the White House. The first thing they think to themselves is, we're all going to jail. Why? Because by losing the White House to Donald Trump, they no longer can keep a lid on it. They don't control the CIA. They don't control the FBI. They don't control any of those other organizations. They don't control the Department of Justice. And all of these documents, everything that they've been covering up, is going to come out. And so what do? They immediately come up with a plan to stop Donald Trump cold. They immediately come up with a plan to stifle Donald Trump's agenda by pushing this bogus narrative of Russian interference and then winning the House of Representatives and immediately trying to impeach him so that they could wrap up his final 2 years with all kinds of indictments and court hearings and ridiculousness in the House of Representatives. They wanted to do it because they were afraid that they would get caught. Hillary Clinton did not do her job. The only job, they didn't think Hillary Clinton was going to be a great president. They didn't think Hillary Clinton was going to be an amazing commander-in-chief. They didn't think Hillary Clinton was going to save America or redo our trade deals or lower taxes or any of that stuff. No, they knew that Hillary Clinton wasn't going to turn on them and send them up the river the way Donald Trump would. Her only job was to be the thumb in the dike so that the dike doesn't burst and the water doesn't flood and everybody gets drowned in their own secrecy, debauchery, and criminal behavior. And she messed it all up. So 4 years later, COVID came. They pulled Joe Biden out of mothballs and said, Hillary Clinton's damaged goods. She couldn't win if we paid. So Joe, you're the next man up. You're implicated in all of this stuff too. You're just as guilty as we are. We know what your family's been doing when you were in the White House. So you're up. And Joe Biden was like, no, my son died. I'm too sad. And they're like, sorry, you're going to be sad in jail. You and Hunter and Jill, everybody. James, you have two choices. You can get off the mothballs, go out there and run for president, or you can go to jail. That's it. And so Joe Biden decided they would dust himself off. He'd go into the basement and he'd run for president. And somehow he became president. But now that's all over. Donald Trump's back. There's nobody with their thumb in the dike. The water's pouring out and the dam's about to burst, and all of them they're all going to drown like that poor cook in Martha's Vineyard at Obama's $15 million estate who just wanted to go paddleboarding. But for some reason, he's no longer breathing. Look, we're going to have a lot of fun watching. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. We're going to have a lot of fun watching this. And I, for one, am personally very, 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 how many varies is that? Is that too many varies? I don't know. I'm very, very, very excited about it. Speaking of stuff going down, speaking of people losing it and drowning in their own criminality and debauchery and stupidity, Jasmine Crockett has become, I got to be honest with you, I'm a big fan. I was on Newsmax this morning with Charla and Mark Lauder. They host Wake Up America. And I've never met anybody who hates Jasmine Crockett more than Charla McBride on Newsmax. It's really, I personally, and I said this to her, I go, look, I'm actually a big fan of Jasmine Crockett because I sometimes, well, here, you know what? I think I have the clip here somewhere. Let me just play you the clip because this was the back and forth we had this morning on Newsmax. On a personal note, I would miss Jasmine Crockett because on some days, like 60% of my podcast is just talking about Jasmine Crockett.
You have to see Charlotte's face right now.
Oh, but I get it because she gives you all of the things that you
it's true.
The fuel, right? I mean, she does. She gives us that fuel.
It's so great. So I would miss her the way I miss Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. But for the people of Texas, this is what they voted for. This is what they want, and this is what they're probably going to get in the end: is redistricting and 5 new representatives.
New representatives, not named Jasmine Crockett. She's a nasty person. I'm going to say that with her language and the rhetoric that she uses every single day, calling the president of the United States a quote piece of blank. I feel like maybe Texas will move in a positive direction if she is no longer sitting there.
Yeah, she's just a nasty, Charlotte's like nasty person. I've never seen that kind of I've never seen that kind of anger in her eyes. But Jasmine Crockett brings that out to some people. And you know who else believes that? Donald Trump. Donald Trump feels the same exact way. Donald Trump on Squawk Box this morning on CNBC was asked about Jasmine Crockett. He was asked about the Democrats in general because this whole thing going on in Texas is crazy. And the Democrats in Texas are now saying, well, they're not in Texas, they're in Chicago, but they're saying we're going to hold out. We're going to stay here all year. The Democrats in Texas are going to abandon their post as elected representatives for their state, and they're going to hang out in J.B. Pritzker's, Job of the Pritzkers. Hey. They're going to hang out in his Hyatt hotels because that's, he owns the Hyatt hotel chain, and they're just going to kick it, and they're going to neglect their duties to the people of Texas. They're not going to come back for the redistricting vote, and Jasmine Crockett is out there supporting them and telling people they're doing the right thing by hiding.
And I won the election in a landslide. And obviously that's only, we're only 6 months in. But my poll numbers are better now, much better than during the election. And now part of that is because the Democrat Party is self-destructing. I mean, when you have low IQ people like Crockett, I wonder if she's in a relationship to the late, great Davy Crockett, who was a great gentleman. I wonder if she's got any relationship to Davy Crockett, the great old Davy Crockett. But you have this woman Crockett. She's a very low IQ person. Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding. The Democrats are lost. They have Trump derangement syndrome so bad that they can't walk. They can't talk. They don't know where they're going. Schumer is finished. Schumer, look, I watched him the other day. He's lost all of his confidence.
40% of the country has, so you're never going to get above 60 in any poll. And it's because 40% have TDS, and we know that. This president, we used to do this every Tuesday. It was called Trump Tuesday. Maybe we can start. This is going to be the start of something again. But
yeah, so I have to let him. I guess I had to let him go. Their time was up with President Donald Trump. Although he could have gone off on Jasmine Crockett for a very long time, and that makes sense because she goes off all the time. In fact, she was out, I guess, yesterday speaking with all these Democrats who were hiding out, and she called, get this, she called the Republicans the bullies.
That they talk a lot of noise, but these guys are weak. That's why they're over here trying to bully people. Bullies are always weak. The difference is they expect Democrats to kind of be the nice guys that we are. They expect us to take the punch and say thank you. Well, I am here to tell you, not only are we going to punch back, but we about to beat you down. We're going to win. I'm going to tell you why we're going to win. Because
okay, that's Jasmine Crockett saying the Republicans are bullies, and we're going to punch you and beat you down. Now, wait a minute. I'm not a bully myself, so I don't know these things. But I was bullied a lot. I wasn't even bullied. I just got the crap kicked out of me a lot. But I would just say the person who's doing the punching and the beating down, I always thought was the bully. So when she's like, these people are bullies, but you know what we're going to do? Punch them and knock them out. That sounds to me like she's the one actually being I could be wrong about this.
And I'm sorry, but instead, we are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out. So I fully anticipate that we are going to take control of the United States House because that is what the American people want. And that is why Donald Trump and his regime is so afraid.
I don't think... So you guys are bullies, and you know what we're going to do? Punch you in the face and knock you out. Punch you, knock you. Punch you, bam, knock you out. Ugh, cold cocked. You bullies? I don't understand. Again, I'm not really sure I don't think she understands the concept of bullies. I don't think she understands what a bully actually is. She doesn't actually understand a lot of things. And let's be honest, it's not just because she's a Democrat. It's not just because she's Jasmine Crockett. It's not just because Donald Trump calls her low IQ. She's really not a smart person. Charlotte called her nasty. Donald Trump called her low IQ. Scott Adams, who I'm going to be honest with you, one of the smartest men I know. I don't really know him, but he's one of the smartest men out there. The guy found Dilbert. I read all of his books. They're amazing. I watch his show from time to time. He pointed out something yesterday, which just goes to show why Jasmine Crockett should not be the leader. She shouldn't be the leader of a Tupperware party, let alone the Democrat Party. Listen to this.
There's a clip of Jasmine Crockett, who is only famous for being so dumb, which is funny. She doesn't know that. But that, if all Republicans ignored her, she would have no attention at all. But the reason that Republicans don't ignore her is not because she's a worthy opponent. It's because she's amusingly stupid. And she was recently on MSNBC, and she was talking about ID mandates for mail-in ballots. And she said,
so unfortunately, we've seen our numbers fall now that they have these voter restrictions in place.
To which I say, you're not supposed to say that in public. If there were fewer mail-in ballots because ID was required, that would sort of suggest that you used to have potentially, some fake voters and fake ballots. So you're not supposed to say that.
Yeah, you're not supposed to. Amusingly stupid. Amusingly stupid is what he called her. And he's 100% right. It's 100% right. I still have that clip was yesterday, right? Yeah, I don't know if here it is. I think it's this one. Oh, no, it's not. It's gone. But that's exactly what he said. She's amusingly stupid. She said, we had these voter restrictions, these ID restrictions, and we lost votes. Well, guess what that means? People who shouldn't have been voting were voting. So it's a good thing you had those ID restrictions. She doesn't even know what she's talking about. And Scott Adams, who say a prayer for that guy, is reminding everybody that she is amusingly stupid. That's the only reason why she's the leader of the Democrat Party. In fact, she said something else today. She was asked about her district because, one of the big things about this redistricting, there's a couple things that happen with redistricting that are beneficial. Number one, the way they redistrict these things is they kind of ungerrymander what the Democrats have almost done. And if you look at this map, you'll see how it's been gerrymandered. And what they do is they ungerrymander these districts. And by ungerrymandering them, what they do is they make it more fair. And that means that, since there's more Republicans in Texas, more Republican districts will be formed. And that means there'll be more Republican representatives in the House of Representatives and fewer Democrats, which we want. But the other thing is that Jasmine Crockett's district specifically turns bright red. And, not bright red, like a light shade of pink. And Jasmine Crockett knows she can't win in that district. Now, she could probably barely win in her district now, but she won't be able to win in a Republican district. And so she's furious about it. But listen to what she actually said. She let the cat out of the bag one more time when she said this to, I think it was MSNBC.
District will change if these maps do pass.
Yeah, so my district, what they did is they did a thing that they packed my district up and then they cracked minorities from another community. And so what they've did is they've increased the number of African Americans in my district. But while they were cracking out persons from another community and packing them into my community, they also removed all the economic engines, which is yet another red flag. This means that I don't have Southwest Airlines or JSX Airlines or Dallas Love Airport or Downtown or AT&T or Goldman Sachs, and the list goes on of amazing companies and corporations that I'm typically bringing in to make sure that we can talk about economic opportunities for the people that live in my district, including getting rid of the medical center in my district as well.
In response to this plan, we've seen Democrats in states like New York and California say that they would look into redistricting as well. Would you encourage them to do that?
I absolutely do. We are in a fight for the soul of this country.
Okay, by the way, she didn't know what the soul of the country, but listen to what she said there. She said first they stacked my district and then they cracked it. The old stack and crack. Old stack and crack Crockett is what they're saying. But she doesn't like what they did. But then listen to what she said. She goes, and you know what else they did? They cut out Southwest Airlines, JSX Airlines. They cut out Dallas Love Airport. They cut out AT&T. They cut out Goldman Sachs. They cut out all of the rich companies that she was looking to for financial support. She's mad, not just because they're redistricting her out of a job, but because she's going to lose the cash. There's no more money coming from AT&T if AT&T is out of her district. There's no more money coming from JSX or Southwest Airlines if they're not in her district. There's no more money coming from that medical center if it's out of her district or any of those things. She's literally out there going, yeah, I'm mad about this, but you know what I'm really mad about? All the rich people are gone. They took all the rich people out of my district, which means I'm going to have to go get a job. And that's what she's really mad about. She's mad about losing her donors. And when asked about whether or not she's ever going to come to the realization that this is going to happen, because this is going to happen. This is going to happen. You're going to have these Democrats come back to Texas eventually. Either they're going to come back to Texas or they're going to be moved from office. They have families. They have children. They have responsibilities. They've got mortgages. There's reasons they have to be. I think they physically have to stay. They have to live in the state for at least 6 months, I think, if they want to serve it. If they leave for more than 6 months, there's all kinds of legal ramifications that can be taken to replace them with people that actually want to do the job. But ultimately, she was asked, what do you think you're going to win, or are you ultimately going to lose this battle? Here's what she said.
I don't say ultimately. I never say ultimately because I don't have a give up attitude whatsoever. But right now, the governor has decided that he wants to waste more of Texans' resources by deciding that he's going to send out the troopers. And listen, I don't even think that he's going to do that. I think he's just talking. Earlier today, I posted a copy of the warrant that was signed by the speaker, because it's the speaker of the House that can put the call on the House, not the governor. And no one came to get me last time. In fact, it is a cute little warrant that has a cute little frame on it. And so they like to talk a big game. But the reality is that, number one, you have a lot of intelligent attorneys that actually serve in the Texas.
Yeah, she's saying basically, and, she's not wrong. They can't. Texas, state troopers or Texas Rangers can't go to Illinois and force these people back across state lines. That's not going to happen. But when they do show up, when they land at the airport, when they drive back across the Texas border, they then will be subject to these subpoenas, subject to these warrants, and they will be arrested and taken directly to the courthouse to do their job, or to the state house rather, to do their job, and to allow for a quorum so that these districts can be passed. And that is something that is going to happen no matter what Jasmine Crockett and J.B. Pritzker and the rest of these crazy Democrats try to do. They're going to ultimately lose, even though Jasmine Crockett is going to punch and kick and knock us out.
And I'm sorry, but instead, we are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out. So I fully anticipate that we are going to take control of the United States House, because that is what the American people want. And that is why Donald Trump and his regime is so afraid.
They're afraid of losing the House. That's the thing. You know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm not as afraid of losing the House if Texas redistricts, but there's always a concern about losing the House. In fact, there are in the past history of the United States of America, especially recently, 97% of the time, the party in power loses control of the House of Representatives. The party in power loses control of the House, and then that creates all kind of havoc. The agenda of the sitting president gets bottlenecked. There's impeachment processes and proceedings which move forward. It's just a big mess, and it slows everything down. And the last two, that's a lot of the times why you have a lame duck president, not just because they're leaving office and they don't really care, and the whole country is now focused on, the upcoming presidential election and who's going to be succeeding them. But the other reason is because Congress changes hands, and when Congress changes hands, nothing gets done. And that's why it's important that we maintain a Republican Congress, but a Republican Congress filled with Republicans, or failing that, We need to make sure if we lose, if the 97% holds and we lose the House of Representatives to these whack jobs like Jasmine Crockett, we need to make sure that we have combative conservatives in, because imagine this. Think about if Jasmine Crockett somehow retains her seat, or there's a new Jasmine Crockett, because let's be honest, there's always going to be another Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett has set the table now. AOC set the table for Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett set the table for LaMonica McIver. LaMonica McIver is going to set the table for somebody else. There's going to be some new lunatic liberal just coming through, coming up the ranks. They're going to be ready, like Al Green, ready to wave their cane, or like LaMonica McIver trying to bust into the ICE facility and body slamming these guards like the Kool-Aid man. There's going to be some new lunatic. And you're going to need Republicans in the House of Representatives who can fight back against them. Do you want some old coot like John Rutherford from Florida's 5th District, who's only there to pad his own pocket and boost his own bank account and trade stocks illegally, and then make sure that he doesn't get caught because he sits on the ethics committee? Or do you want somebody who's conservative, who's constitutionally grounded, who's going to vote no on bad bills and yes on good ones, and not the other way around, who's not going to trade stocks, who's not going to sit there for 10, 12, 14 years just trying to make as much money as possible before they retire to the beach, and who is going to actually represent the people? You want somebody who's not going to reach across the aisle and say, okay, lunatic liberals, I'll work with you. You want somebody who's going to reach across the aisle and smack these people and say, you're acting like an idiot. There's no way we're working with you. That's why I'm running for Congress. That's why I'm running for Congress in 2026. That's why we're having a big rally on August 18th, which I'll get to here in just a minute. And that's why we need your financial support, because it's tough to run for Congress. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of volunteers, but it also takes a lot of money. And when you see those yard signs sticking up in the yard, or when you see volunteers, and yes, they're volunteers going around to the houses handing out palm cards, those palm cards, they cost money. When you see bumper stickers on the back of the car, when we have a rally and we need to rent equipment, or, have photographers, all that kind of stuff, it all costs money. These hats, which we use to make money, cost money up front. So it's something that we run ads on Facebook and all over the place. And Facebook, I don't know if you know this, but they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They don't give you anything for free. So if you would like to help a constitutional conservative, a combative constitutional conservative who can stick it to these Democrats, these socialists like LaMonica McIver, like Jasmine Crockett, for at least 2 years starting in 2026. If you want to see that, and you want to see less rhinos who are only there to trade stocks in their spare time and boost their retirements a la Nancy Pelosi, well then visit markkforcongress.com and donate whatever you can. markkforcongress.com. It'll take you to this website right here. You'll see me. You'll see the little congressional thing there. You'll see all that stuff. And you can make a donation of any amount. Any amount is welcome, and any amount would be, like I said, helpful, because we need all the help we can get. We are fighting an establishment incumbent who has all the big donors in the district, but is somebody that is ripe for the picking. And we're going to pick him off the bunch, right off the tree, and throw him in the barrel full of bad apples, because that's where he belongs. markkforcongress.com. President Donald Trump on Squawk Box today was so interesting because he talks about a lot of stuff. And, the Squawk Box guys are pretty good. Joe, what's his name? Joe, I always forget. Joe something. Kernan. Thank you. Joe Kernan. Good guy. A great interviewer. He always gets Donald Trump riled up on something. And when you talk about the economy, which is what they do on Squawk Box, Donald Trump gets riled up. And one of the things they like to talk about is the Fed and Jerome Powell and interest rates. And will this guy ever cut the interest rates? Will Donald Trump ever get a new Fed chair? Will we see this rebound in the economy like we've been waiting for? Is the new golden age going to be ushered in with cheap money and a housing boom like Donald Trump has been predicting, like Donald Trump has been asking for? What is the latest with the Fed rate cut and Jerome Powell? Well, Donald Trump was there to answer.
I wanted it a year ago. I wanted it a long time ago. Jay Powell is highly political, and I think, I call him too late. Jerome, too late. Powell, he's too late. He's too late always. He always has been, except when he came to lowering interest rates before the election, that he did.
Yeah, he lowered interest rates before. I mean, if you think about it, when Donald Trump says something like Jerome Powell is highly political, that's not just him making a false accusation. There's grounds to back that up. Jerome Powell cut the interest rate, not when it needed to be a cut, but right before the election. Why? Well, because we know it's the economy, stupid. That's the one thing that came out of the Clinton years that's actually true. It's the economy, stupid. And if the economy is strong and if people feel like they're economically in a good position, they will vote for the party in power to remain in power, except Joe Biden destroyed it beyond recognition. And so when Jerome Powell cut the interest rate, that proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was doing it for political reasons. And when Donald Trump came back to power and Donald Trump lowered inflation and Donald Trump lowered gas prices and Donald Trump lowered food prices and Donald Trump increased jobs and Donald Trump brought in billions of dollars worth of tariffs and Donald Trump renegotiated our worst trade deals, when Donald Trump did all of that stuff and he went to Jerome Powell and said, cut the interest rate and let's really get this economy going, Jerome Powell said no. He refused. And Jerome Powell saying no to Donald Trump is just as political, if not more so, than Jerome Powell saying yes to Joe Biden right before the election. And Donald Trump knows it. And that's why he's looking to replace Jerome Powell. That's why he wants Jerome Powell out. And the question came up, who's going to be the new Fed chair if Jerome Powell's gone? Scott Bessent, maybe? And Donald Trump said, no, he doesn't want that job.
I love Scott, but he wants to stay where he is. I'll take him off because I asked him just last night, is this something you want? Nope, I want to stay where I am. He actually said, I want to work with you. It's such an honor. I said, that's very nice. I appreciate that. But no, Scott wants to do what he's doing. He's doing a great job, and he wants to do what he's doing. So I just take him off. He does not want it. He likes being Treasury Secretary. He's doing a really good job. We made the greatest trade deals in the history of our country. We had to because we were being ripped off by the world. It's not like we had a choice. If we would have gotten these trade deals, if you would have had a normal president that would have just continued to allow every country in the world to rip you off, we would not have a country anymore. Your show would be off the air. There'd be nothing to look at. It would be a disaster. We were in such bad shape when I took over.
And there's more to that because Donald Trump, he doesn't take a breath. But he's like, look, Scott Bessent doesn't want to do it. He wants to be Treasury Secretary. He's having too good a time. He's doing too good a job. And I agree with that. The one thing I really dislike about President Donald Trump's presidency is that he takes all the best people, puts them into positions of power, and that leaves voids elsewhere. But Scott Bessent staying as Secretary of Treasury is exactly what we need. We don't need him going anywhere else. He's seasoned in the job. He's good at the job. People seem to trust him, and he makes these good deals. He works well with Jameson Greer. He works well with Marco Rubio. He may or may not have punched Elon Musk in the face. You don't get rid of a guy. Look, and I love Elon Musk. I'm a big Elon Musk fan. I love X. I love everything else. SpaceX, I think, is amazing. I have not yet experienced a Tesla for myself, but I hear good things. I've not yet experienced the what's the Wi-Fi that everyone Starlink. But I'm gonna get Starlink eventually. It's in the cards for me, just not yet. And I'm a big fan. I think he's a great motivator. I think he's a very successful businessman. I think he loves America. Sometimes I think he's a little unhinged, but aren't we all? But I mean, Scott Bessent reportedly punching Elon Musk in the face. I'm all about it, even if it's not true, even if it didn't happen. It's still a great story, and you only get those kinds of stories with. So I would say Scott Bessent, do not let him go to the Fed, at least not yet. Maybe after, maybe down the road, he could be Fed chair, but definitely not yet. And then they asked Donald Trump about an executive order, which I'm going to be honest with you, I hadn't even heard about this, but I know that it's important and I know that it's needed. And again, I'm excited that it's happening now. It's happening now in August when nobody can really do anything to stop it. This is an executive order regarding the banking industry, because I don't know if you remember this, but back in the days of the woke folk and cancel culture, back in the days when, my TikTok was shut down every other day instead of every other month like it is now, back when we were getting demonetized and taken off the air and Rand Paul said something about masks on my show and YouTube said, that's it, you're canceled, back when we got fired from the radio, back before Donald Trump came back to power, back when the liberals tried to censor every conservative voice on the air, on social media, on X, everywhere. Back in those days, you may remember that it wasn't just the media companies, but it was a lot of these companies that help that are necessary for commerce. They were trying to not just stifle conservative voices, but they were trying to shut down conservative businesses. And Andrew Tate will tell you all about it Because when Andrew Tate said some things which a couple people thought were misogynistic, he lost his Facebook, his Instagram, his YouTube, his Twitch. He lost all of his channels. Plus, they started to shut down his businesses. They shut down his Stripe account. They shut down his Shopify store. They shut down his bank accounts. They started seizing his assets and his funds. He couldn't open a new account. He couldn't run any of his businesses. He could not collect money on the internet digitally from anywhere because all of these woke companies that ran the joint, they weren't just attacking free speech. They were attacking your ability to enact free enterprise. That's how much they hated conservatives. It wasn't enough just to shut us up. They wanted to shut us down and bankrupt us, but for good. Donald Trump. Whenever Donald Trump hired a lawyer, there were other companies and law firms that immediately stopped doing, but they would pull their funding from whatever law firm that lawyer was associated with as a warning shot. And a lot of law firms refused to take Donald Trump's cases. Same with a lot of other Donald Trump acolytes, Roger Stone, what's his name from Breitbart? The guy, all of them, they couldn't find attorneys because the attorneys were being threatened. They didn't even want Republicans and conservatives to get good fair legal advice going into these court hearings. It was ridiculous. Well, now Donald Trump is firing back, especially at the banks, because he too was targeted.
The Wall Street Journal is reporting that you're prepping an order that they say would punish banks that discriminate against conservatives, including potentially Bank of America. I'm going to be actually talking to Brian Moynihan here later today. Can you tell us about that executive order? What's in that? And what do you think the banks have done?
Well, they did discriminate. I had J.P. Morgan Chase. I had hundreds of millions of dollars in cash. I could see if they want to, if they want to do something bad because you don't have any money and you're defaulted and they took people out. But I'll give you me as an example. I had hundreds of millions. I had many, many accounts loaded up with cash. I was loaded up with cash, and they told me, "I'm sorry, sir, we can't have you. You have 20 days to get out." I said, "You got to be kidding. I've been with you for 35, 40 years." They said, and I mean, I had all this. I didn't know what to do with it. And I went to, and you could ask him. Maybe he's not going to admit it. So I said, I was informed by my people that we have to get out of Chase Manhattan. That's Jamie and J.P. Morgan Chase. So I said, I can't believe it. Well, I was never in this situation before. I've never had anything like it. And it's not like, gee, you defaulted on a loan. I can understand that. That's different. But there's no default. I mean, there's nothing but cash. I have a really great company. And then what happens is I call up Bank of America routinely because when I was president, this was after I got out, by the way, I call up Bank of America routinely. And I speak to him and I speak to a couple of people, and they have zero interest. Brian was kissing my ass when I was president, and when I called him after I was president to deposit $1 billion plus and a lot of other things, more importantly to open accounts, which banks always like. They like accounts because they get interest-free, the overnights and things. There are a lot of reasons for it, but they like accounts. I had hundreds of accounts, and he said, we can't do it. No, we can't do it. So I went to another one. I ended up going to small banks all over the place. I mean, I was putting 10 million here, 10 million there, did 5 million, 10 million, 12 million. I have them all over the place, the craziest thing. And it's lucky I even had them. They were doing me a favor. And that's because the banks discriminated against me very badly. And I was very good to the banks. I had the greatest economy in the history of our country when I was president. And by the way, our economy now will blow that away, and you see it happening. But our economy now, because we're a rich country again, because of our trade deals, we've become a rich country again. But no, they totally discriminate against, I think me maybe even more, but they discriminate against many conservatives. I told that story and sitting around tables with other people that were conservative or Trump supporters. I think the word might be Trump supporters more than conservative. And I believe what they did is they went to the regulators. Banks are not afraid of anything but a regulator. They're regulators and their wives. They're more afraid of their wives than the regulators. But the group they're really afraid of is bank regulators. And I believe that Biden or Kamala, and I don't think they're smart enough to do it, but the people that are surrounding the beautiful Resolute desk, the high IQ people that are radical left, I believe they told the banking commission, the bankers, that the banking regulators, do everything you can to destroy Trump. And that's what they did. And guess what? I'm president. How did that happen?
Yeah, how did that happen? And now guess what? We're going to sign an executive order, and it's going to be putting these people in their place. I've told people that story. I remember that story when Bank of America refused to give Donald Trump an account. Donald Trump, who is arguably one of the greatest businessmen, who is a real estate mogul, who's an entertainment sensation, who was president. This is after he was president, by the way. This was after he left office. This is in the 4 years in between. He couldn't get a bank account. A lot of people couldn't get bank accounts. A lot of bank accounts were getting shut down. And I remember Bank of America being one of the biggest culprits. And I've had people, now that I'm running for office, Mark Kaye for Congress, Florida's 5th district. Now that I'm running for Congress, I talk to a lot of people and they're like, you got to get a bank account. And I go, okay, they go, but don't go to this bank. And I go, why not? They go, they hate conservatives. And I go, well, they can't touch my campaign funds. They're like, oh yeah, they can. So I did exactly what Donald Trump did. I went to a small community bank and I said, look, I need a trustworthy bank. They're like, you can trust us. I need someone who's not going to shut down my account just because I'm conservative. And I found one. And that's what you have to do. But think about that. Think about what these people did. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, Obama, Bill Clinton, all of these people. Think about how dastardly they were. They went to the regulators. They went to the banking industry and they said, if somebody supports Donald Trump, if somebody's a Trump supporter, if somebody's MAGA, if they're conservative, if they're a Republican, shut down their bank account. Don't do business with them. Shut them down or you won't, or we're going to go after you. That's what the regulator said, according to Donald Trump. That's what he believes happened. And he's probably not far off. Because if there's anything Donald Trump knows, it's the banking industry and it's how to borrow money. That's how horrible these people are. They didn't just, it's what happened in Canada too. You remember in Canada with the truckers strike? That horrible Katy Perry's new boyfriend, what's his name? Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau not only arrested those people, but he impounded their vehicles. He took away their business licenses. He took away their driver's licenses, and then he shut down their bank accounts. And you know what else he did? There was a GoFundMe for people to help the truckers pay for food and supplies and make sure that they weren't defaulting on their loans and their bills. And if you donated to that GoFundMe, he would shut down your bank account as well. That's communist tyranny right there. That's the worst stuff of the entire world. There's no leader worse, in my mind, in the last 50, 60 years than Justin Trudeau, because he went after people's livelihoods. He didn't just say, we need you to stop breaking the law. We need you to get your truck out of the street. He tried to destroy them. It was a personal vendetta. It's what the Democrats tried to do as well to Donald Trump via the banking industry, and not just Trump, but Andrew Tate and a whole bunch of other Trump supporters. And now Donald Trump's president. How did that happen? And now Donald Trump rules the roost. How do we know he rules the roost? Well, because he was literally on the roost. Or on the roof, I guess. I guess he was on the roof, not the roost. What are you doing up there, President Trump?
Mr. President, what are you doing up there?
I'm looking at the banking industry, and I'm about to shut them down.
Talk to us.
Yeah.
What are you building?
I'm building a brand new America. I'm building a brand new economy. I'm out here scoping out the United States of America, and I'm looking for the potholes that we still need to fill. I'm looking for where we can build things, where we can make things better than they were, where we can make America great again. That's what I'm doing up there, and I'm going to be doing that for the next 3 years at least. Listen, tomorrow night, this is very exciting. I have a fantastic event going on. It's called Podcast Profits Live. And what happens during Podcast Profits Live is I share with you how I create my podcasts and my profits, and I do it all live. So if you're not doing anything, it's 8 p.m. on Wednesday night. It's a lot of fun. It's not a lot of politics. It's more business. If you've ever been interested in the business and marketing aspect of what I do, then this is for you. If you have a podcast of your own, you just can't get it to grow, or if you're looking to add some kind of social media marketing and you're wondering how to do it, how to profit, how to build your business, or how to create income streams from, posting content online, that's what I do every single day. And tomorrow, Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll be hosting a brand new live event, Podcast Profits Live. Now, it's free. That's the best part of this. It's free. You get to learn. Look, there's all this stuff you're going to get to learn. You'll learn how to speak and grow rich with your own podcast, the easiest way to record and distribute your podcast for free, how to repurpose your podcast into a multimedia empire, and why you must have a podcast to succeed in the new golden age. This is all stuff that we're going to go over. And when we go over it tomorrow, you're going to get all this information for free. It's absolutely free of charge. I've had people that have come to this 3-4 times. They've never paid a dime. All you need to do, though, is register because we have a Zoom room. It's limited in capacity. We want to make sure everybody that wants to get in there can get in there. So if you're interested in joining me, again, it's tomorrow night, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Simply go to podcastprofitspro.com, podcastprofitspro.com, or even better, if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, click the link in the description of the video and it'll take you right there. Podcastprofitspro.com. That's tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Wednesday. I spill all my secrets. I take you behind the scenes of Kaye Media and Mark Kaye Saves the Republic so you can learn how I do what I do, why I do what I do, and most importantly, how I can profit from what I do, and most importantly, how you can do the same gosh darn thing. If you're interested, thank you so much for being here today. Thanks so much for watching the show and enjoying the show. Thanks for subscribing. If you have not yet subscribed, now's the time to do it. Hit that subscribe button, set the notifications, make sure wherever you're listening or watching, they know that you want more Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. You want Mark Kaye Saves the Republic every single time we publish new content, and we do that all the freaking time. We do it for you. We do it to keep you informed. We do it to keep you entertained. We do it to keep you on your toes. We do it to keep you inspired. We do it to keep you sharp. We do it so you know who's attacking you, where the attacks are coming from, how they're attacking you, how you can fight, so that we can save the Republic. Okay, fun fact. We are going to have an after party at Katriots.com. However, for whatever reason, I have deleted the after party intro. There's no 3-minute timer, but there will be here. You know what I'm going to do? Here's what we'll do. We'll just put this up for 3 minutes. There's no actual timer, but we will have an after party in 3 minutes. So if you would like to join us for the after party, go to Katriots.com. It happens in 3 minutes.